This is a campaign that seems to have no message discipline, and a candidate who doesn't know the Russians are in Crimea, and so many other things. It's not a very good day to be a Trump supporter.
And what you saw with Mike Pence there, with the woman holding up the portrait of her son and talking about Trump's comments with regard to other soldiers, Muslim soldiers in particular, that was a perfect example of it. Some of that audience was hooting at that woman whose son is serving in the armed forces of the United States. That's the Republican Party, and Trump has revealed it.
There's unpredictability in him, and I think that's what bothers me the most, that he really can't take a jibe, he can't take a criticism, he has to respond, and he has to attack back, and the attack has to be worse, essentially, than what he interpreted was said about him. I think that's a very bad trait for a president.
And I do think that he doesn't know if Russian troops are in Crimea or not. It goes to this question about, does he know what he's talking about? Does he know the issues very well? And it sets up, it's a bad contrast for Trump to be like showing he has no knowledge of a big issue and then saying, I don't want to be in debates. It raises the question of, do you not want to be in debates because you're not smart enough to be in debates?
By any conventional standard, Donald Trump just blundered through the worst 3 days of any presidential candidate in living memory. I know he's an unconventional candidate, and candidates make mistakes, but have you ever seen anything like this?
Never. But the operative phrase there is conventional wisdom. Mm-hmm. Everything about Donald Trump's rise has been counter to conventional wisdom.
Where did today's events leave Donald Trump's relationship with his own party?
In shambles is where it leaves them. You know, you made the point that that Barack Obama is trying to drive a wedge between Trump and his party. He was doing that. Unnecessary at this point. Donald Trump has said repeatedly and believes he does not care about party unity, and every day the way he behaves, especially today, saying what he said to the Washington Post, everything else he's been doing, suggests that that is what he really believes. He does not think he needs the Republican Party, and increasingly the Republican Party him, they think he is a threat to their political futures. And as you guys talked about on Morning Joe this morning, there are a lot of conservatives and Republicans who think he's emotionally and mentally unstable and that this is going to be a nightmare from now until November.
It's a running tally of things that had literally any other candidate said or done them probably would end their campaign, but not Donald Trump. If you recall, we had to wipe out our previous board, entirely erase it clean and replace it with all the new controversies that Trump has brought onto himself during the 2 weeks of the conventions. But because we are now in full general election mode and the candidate the Republican Party is running for president is Donald Trump, this list is already out of date. So let's take a moment to remember a few of the stories that had but a brief stay on a list created just about 24 hours ago.
I think that part of what you're seeing is someone who continues to be baited. You also saw Jan Brewer come out earlier today saying that Donald Trump is not experienced enough not to be baited. We saw at the convention last week in Hillary Clinton's acceptance speech, she said that Donald Trump, do you want someone who can be baited with a tweet you can't trust someone who can be baited with a tweet to be the commander-in-chief.
So look at what happened here. Trump listened to a speech by the bereaved father of a fallen Muslim soldier, and he used it to slander the fallen soldier's family. That was his response. That is his character.
Even if you're certain that you're right and that they're wrong, do you regret at all engaging in this back and forth with the cons?
I don't regret anything.
If Donald Trump were trying to lose this election, and I'm not saying he is, but if he were, I'm not sure he'd behave any differently than he has in the last few days. I mean, this is something I've never seen before.
Donald Trump's campaign appears at this moment aimless. Those with direct knowledge tell us Trump is increasingly estranged from his top political advisors. Turmoil among senior staff continues, and fundraising for Trump's D.C. transition office, launching this week, is way behind schedule.
So the idea that Donald Trump can come out now and present party unity is starting to become laughable within Republican circles. I've been talking to GOP operatives who say that they just can't believe this, and this is the final straw. What else could he possibly be doing or possibly do in order to gain their trust back? They didn't trust him in the first place, and this is the nail in that coffin.